Welcome to this month's edition of Student Spotlight. Our guest today is a second-year MBA student at the University of Michigan-Flint School of Management, Ryan Hicks. Ryan has a variety of interests, ranging from having a music technology obsession to being an expert in the field of audiobook production. He's a Navy veteran, used to drive an aircraft carrier. He's a local Midwest boy and raised in Schwartz Creek. He was educated in the West Coast in Seattle and Los Angeles and is continuing his academics back here in his home state. So, Ryan. Hello, Ryan.
Hello, Dr. Witt.
Nice to speak with you today. Thanks.
Nice to be here. Thanks for inviting me into this interview.
Well, you have a lot to offer our students, and so I thought I'd take this opportunity to share with them a little bit about you. So, why are you here today? What are you all about?
So I'm here today because the stories that I have to tell might help make some other folks make decisions about maybe coming to the school or other things dealing with their career or maybe even business.
All right. Well, so how long have you been at the university? This is your second year, right?
Yep, this is my second year. I moved back to Michigan 5 years ago and decided that going back to school back in my home state was something that would move me forward as an adult.
Well, welcome home. What sort of courses are you interested in? What do you like in the coursework you've encountered?
So the two types of courses that I've liked the best so far are the ones that deal with the theory of money, how money works, and economics on a broader and smaller scale. It's not something I ever thought about academically before, so working through the business economics class was great. And then any of the courses that deal with behavior have been really interesting. Negotiation was definitely a high point. That was a great course. And organizational behavioral dynamics was a whole new world reading about that.
What do you like best about the university?
So I grew up in Swartz Creek, and the UM-Flint campus is about 20 minutes away, driving very slowly like I do, right down Miller Road. I love the access to the campus, and it's just different enough to feel like I'm going to school without feeling too rushed or feeling like too much is going on. I really like the Flint area in that part of campus, and it's enjoyable to drive there, learn stuff when we can go to campus and have access to that place.
Well, what are your plans for the next few years?
So I used to work a lot. I had a lot of jobs, and when I started going to school, I decided to pare down all of the work. And I am now down to just one job and going to school. And so for the next few years, I want to combine the business knowledge from school with what I'm working on and really create something good, mix the academics with my job. And who I started working for 4 months ago is this scrappy startup from Seattle. It's a great story. There's just 8 of us. And the founder of the company created a new technology to move into the audiobook industry. And now I'm an integral part of deciding where to take that. And so my next year especially is going to be day to day being in meetings, deciding what to do with it and how to work the business angle. And it's just fascinating. Every day is a little bit different.
Interesting. So you're very familiar with this balance that most of our students have to deal with, a little bit of work, a little bit of school, and leave some time for your life?
Now, the rest of your life just goes away.
All right.
But as far as the work-life balance goes, this is my third time in school and the first time working full-time during, and it's very challenging. And for students that have families, it takes it to another level even. So the best thing that I can think of as far as work and school is to try and merge the two. If you have things that you learn during your class periods and in your books, try and pull that into your job. And then even though it makes the difference between school and work a little fuzzier, you get more out of both if you're trying to incorporate them both at the same time.
All right. All right. Sounds perfectly rational.
Right?
Well, what do you like to do in your free time there, sir?
So I love playing the piano. Every time I get a break, I come over here and I bang on the keys. And anyone who's been to Swartz Creek knows that it's got the tiny town feel. And I just go outside and I walk around. We had 4 inches of snow last night. I'll go walk through the woods down the street, and that's a nice way to relax. I still do some music production. Feels like lifetimes ago that I wanted to do that, but I have microphones and guitars and things like that left over, so I still have some hobbies.
All right. What advice do you have for students who are unsure of their focus?
So, focus. I would say instead of deciding on your focus beforehand, find out what's around you that you can focus on. So if you know that something at your job needs someone to focus on it, you can pivot to whatever that is, and you can always be valuable. Whereas if you decide your focus early, like I want to know, or I know that I want to do this, if that's not available, you know, what happens? And especially now with things changing to remote work and differences in employment and differences in travel, if focus isn't something that you can pivot to, then you're selling yourself short. So being flexible about what you're concentrating on, I think, is a big benefit to people who can take that perspective right now.
So what types of courses should every student take here at the university before they graduate? I mean, you clearly have a deep technology knowledge base. You're studying business, interested in economics and music, of course. You like the feel of how organizations work. But what courses would you recommend students take before they leave? My favorite, just to lead you a bit, is everybody's got to have a logics course. I'd also recommend a philosophy course. Everyone should do international travel. It's important. But aside, those are my bias.
So I'm going to add on to your bias and hedge a little bit and say, instead of having a course or a few courses that I would recommend focusing on how to give presentations in terms of making slideshows, being really comfortable with putting slideshows in front of you and then being able to speak through them. So every class that I've taken, there's always some component in there of being able to present your ideas. So instead of me saying that you should take the logic class or the philosophy class, I would say when you're in those classes, really pay attention to presentations, because a good presentation makes all the difference. And not being able to speak your way through it or not being able to present, especially in the online environment, is going to be a problem. So take all the classes, but learn how to say what you mean in them. And if the school had classes just on those things, I would be the first person to sign up for those.
Very helpful advice. It's too often that people wait to the last minute to put together a presentation, and their hard work doesn't get noticed because they don't present well. And so practicing that presentation is your advice.
Yep. And it's so much of what I do for my job, and the information comes from classes, but I'd really love more practice. And I think being in front of students and having feedback from instructors would be really a great experience and something to add to the curriculum.
Very thoughtful, as expected. Thank you so much for joining us today, Ryan. I very much appreciate it.
Thanks for having me, and I'm going to go back to playing the piano.
Thank you, sir.
See you, Dr. Witt.